Hey guys, today we're going to finish talking about the final step of World War II, and that is the creation of the United Nations. World War II officially ended with the dropping of the atomic bombs in both Hiroshima and Nagasaki, but does not officially end until the Yalta Conference. The Yalta Conference is attended by the Big Three, made up of Churchill, FDR, and Stalin. FDR comes up with an idea to create a peaceful, friendly negotiations with the Soviet Union, and his goal is to create something called the United Nations. This is very similar to Woodrow Wilson's League of Nations that was suggested at the ending of World War I. Within the treaty, it is decided that Germany will have to accept an unconditional surrender and be split up into 4 zones of occupation. Those 4 zones of occupation will be divided up amongst the 4 major players in the world at this time. That is France, England, United States, and the Soviet Union. If you look here on this map, you'll see that this half of Germany will be divided by the democratic countries, and this half will be divided by the Soviet countries. Berlin will be right here where this little dot is, though it is a part of the democratic portion of Germany. It is the capital and will be divided in half amongst these 2 ideas, communism and democracy, and that division will be divided by the Berlin Wall leading to the Cold War. Here's the Big Three. You have Churchill, FDR, and Stalin. FDR was a very smart man and intended to make sure that the United Nations create a long-lasting peace within the world. And he said that it's the power of which this nation has attained, the political, the economic, the military, and above all, the moral power, has brought to us the responsibility and with it the opportunity for the leadership in the community of nations. It is our own best interest in the name of peace and humanity. This nation cannot and must not and will not shirk that responsibility. The creation of the UN is FDR's plan for a long-lasting peace. The UN was presented by FDR in 1943, and FDR used a bipartisan team to develop this plan. Bipartisan is the use of both Republicans and Democrats. It was created to prevent world wars from ever happening again, and he planned to use 4 basic freedoms. You have this first, freedom of expression or freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom from want, freedom from needing things in life that are natural to humans, food, water, and freedom from fear, fear that your country will be ravaged by war, from fear that you will be targeted based on your religion, addressing all of the issues of World War II. You see here, this is the signing of the United Nations and all of the leaders that are present. The UN is a building located in New York City, and there are flags representing all of the nations involved. How does the UN work? There's a General Assembly created of all the countries involved within the UN. The Security Council is where the power takes place. There are 15 members, and 5 members remain the same, and the remaining 11 rotate. The Big 5 have the power to veto anything the UN suggests because they provide military support. These are the people that when there's a crisis, they'll send in troops. They will be in the blue uniform representing the United Nations and not their specific country. You see here is the flags of every country represented in the UN, and here's the Security Council. And if you look up here at the very top, you will see the Big 5 are represented by Britain, China, France, Russia, and the United States. These are the countries that have the power to veto because these are the countries that have the ability to send military powers to foreign countries. You see here a comparison between the 2. You have the League of Nations that left out the Republican Party, where FDR included all members of Congress in this decision. The United States never joined the League of Nations, while the United States did join the United Nations and provided military support. The League ultimately fails, and the United Nations has become a long-lasting success with over 190 countries located in the United Nations. One of the first things that the UN does is create the nation of Israel. Israel is the home place or birthplace of the Jewish faith, and it was created as a safe haven for Jewish people following the Holocaust. Great Britain had controlled the nation of Palestine since 1922, and after World War II, Great Britain was forced to release their imperial holds or get rid of their colonies. The UN decides to split Palestine into an Arabic and Jewish state. So if you see here, the red is the Arabic state, and this greenish color is the Jewish state. And you see how each is intermingled. You have the Gaza Strip right here. This is going to become the birthplace of a large amount of conflict in the Middle East. But it does create the legal basis for the creation of Israel. The UN today has a much different job than it had when it was originally created. Its job is to maintain international peace, promote sustainable development, protect human rights, uphold international law, and deliver aid. And if you see here in this graphic, all of these are parts and sections of the UN that make up the entirety of it. In this image, you have the UN providing resources for a Cambodian village where they have been wiped out by a natural disaster. They're bringing pillows, food, providing military support to bring aid. The UN has also started shooting for gender equality, enlisting the help of famous celebrities. Here's Emma Watson, and supporting the idea that women and men should be equal. Here's the UN bringing clean drinking water to a village in Africa, providing places and resources for those that are not accessible to them. And here again, you have another celebrity, Angelina Jolie, providing awareness and bringing the life of these people in Cambodia to the general public and just providing them with resources that they wouldn't have access to. And to finish out, we'll look at this quote from Arthur Schillingsinger. He is a famous historian. He says, "Take a look at our present world. It is manifestly not Adolf Hitler's world. His 1,000-year Reich turned out to have a brief and bloody run of a dozen years. It is manifestly not Joseph Stalin's world. That ghastly world self-destructed before our eyes. Nor is it Winston Churchill's world. Empire and its glories have long since vanished into history, but what we live in today is Franklin Roosevelt's world." So we have a lot to thank FDR for in his creation of the UN and how it successfully led to the transition of peace and the ability to eliminate world wars.